Okay, YouTube friends everywhere, welcome to this edition of the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. I'm flying blind tonight. I have very limited visibility of the live stream, so if it has gone awry, I won't see it probably at all. So um, hopefully it'll just play tonight. Now we've already got 34 check-ins. I don't think I can even show that many in the log. I may just omit showing the log tonight. The fewer button presses, the the less likelihood there is that we'll drop the stream. So, which means you're probably going to be stuck with this one shot all night long. Sorry about that. Let me close this so that we don't get any interruptions. And besides, I kind of like to show off my my North Georgia GMRS awards. You know, that's very cool stuff. So it is. Hey, it's time. Let's go ahead and kick this thing into gear. Where is my script? Good evening. I think I'm ready to start, but I just lost my place, and I'm looking for my place finder, and it's not where I expected it to be. But there it is. Okay. Good evening and welcome to the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. I'll be working off the flagship 675 repeater this evening, and we are linked in with the following machines: Lookout Mountain, Somerville, McDonough, Noonan, Columbus, Jersey, Zebulon, Moreland, Crawford, and of course the VoIP server that we also know as Zello. Our coverage tonight is approximately 31,000 square miles of RF coverage. We call them square miles, but the circles on the map are kind of round, so you know you could go either way with that. But in any case, our coverage is worldwide, considering the voice over internet protocol service we know of as Zello. This net takes place every Thursday evening at 7:30 p.m. I'd like to thank everyone, all of you, who have made North Georgia GMRS the most expansive and active GMRS network in the country. Probably in the city, too. This net takes place, I've already read that. This is a family-based network, so we encourage you to get your family involved. We love to hear from spouses and kids, and we encourage participation from all family members. On the net, you can talk about, easy for you to say, on the net you can talk about your day's activities, radio equipment, or anything you think we'd like to hear about. Tonight's topic is off-road vehicles. I don't know a lot about off-road vehicles, and you might not either. And if you'd rather talk about something other than off-road vehicles, that's okay. But I think there's a bunch of us in here that'll be interested in the conversation about what vehicles we use when we go off-road. When I say we, well, you know what I mean. And you know what equipment we use, what radios, what accessories. Do you have a winch on your off-road vehicle? Something that I would think that if you're going to spend very much time off-road would be a very important thing to have. I don't have one. Well, I do, but it's not on my truck, so you know it doesn't really count. Cranking that thing back and forth about an inch every time you crank. Take forever to pull a vehicle out with that winch, but I've got one. I just don't carry it on the truck, so it's not an off-road truck, it's a city truck. So all that being said, once the floor is open, it is permissible to address other members of the net by their name or tactical unit number. Your FCC call sign is only required when you sign in and when you sign out of the net. At this time, I will acknowledge our early bird check-ins. Got a bunch of them, so I'm going to go through them real quick. Let me break. I had to stretch the window out so I could see them all. So let's start off. We have Atlanta 810. John in Dawsonville is in with us this evening. We also have Atlanta 811 Victoria, who is in and out. Thank you, John and Victoria. We have Atlanta 172. Greg in Bremen is in with us this evening. McDonough 32. Lance in McDonough is in this evening. We have Atlanta 253, Donald in Blairsville, is in and out tonight. We've got McDonough 34, Jared in McDonough, in the log with us this evening. We've got Chattanooga 106, Della in Rossville, in and out, as well as Chattanooga 105, Matt, also in Rossville, in and out. Thank you, folks, for checking in this evening. McDonough 39, Bruce in Stockbridge was in, and now he's out. So thanks, Bruce. Hope you're able to stick around. And, of course, this goes for everybody who's in and out. If at some point along the way, if you have a comment that you'd like to jump in here, just tell us. Just jump in here. Say comment. We'll try to acknowledge you and get you back in and engaged in the conversation. I've got Atlanta 285, CV Smith, and Atlanta 286, Lynn, both in Murrayville, and both are in and out tonight. It's great to have you along, CV and Lynn. Hope that you are mending well. Atlanta 780, Houston in Powder Springs is in the log tonight. Chattanooga 69, Ronnie from the Lookout Mountain Machine is in and out tonight. Thank you, Ronnie. Blue Ridge 108, Mike in Cherry Log is in with us tonight. Atlanta 344, Damon in Murrayville is in with us tonight. Atlanta 287, Trey, also in Murrayville, in tonight. Atlanta 288, Jackson, also in Murrayville, is in and out. Appreciate you checking in, Jackson, and hope all is well. Atlanta 32, Chris in Illinois is in and out tonight. That's about halfway through the list. Let me take a little break. Be right back. Got to wet the whistle, and I'm trying to shorten my transmit times a little bit, but we'll see how that works. Okay, back to the roster here. We've got Atlanta 434, Ronnie in North Forsyth is in the log tonight. Chattanooga 8, I did it again. Chattanooga 67, Ed in Lookout Valley. I don't know why I want to say 87 when I see that, but Chattanooga 67, Ed in Lookout Valley is in with us tonight. Atlanta 270, Scott incoming, in and out. Thank you, Scott. Atlanta 721, David in Southwest Paulding County is in tonight. Chattanooga 55, Doug in Chattanooga, in and out. Thank you, Doug. I'm sorry, Atlanta 360, Chris in Atlanta is in and out. Thank you, Chris, for checking in. Atlanta 417, William in Auburn, in and out tonight. Appreciate your check-in, William. Atlanta 737, Charles in Gainesville. Charles might be in and out. We're going to call him and see if he comes back. We have Atlanta 402, Todd incoming, is in and out with us this evening. Let me break. We have Atlanta 948, Gary in Woodstock is in and out tonight. Thank you, Gary and Todd, for your check-ins. Atlanta 42, Andre in Winder. I think Andre said in and out, but I didn't mark him that way. So, Andre, we'd love to hear from you tonight. If you can stick around and come back to us when we call, that'd be great. If not, that's okay too. We'll figure it out when we get there. Atlanta 299, Steve in Roswell is in with us this evening. It's great to hear from you, Steve. Chattanooga 100, Bob in Ringgold is in and out tonight. Thank you, Bob. Atlanta 76, David in Duluth is in and out tonight. And Chattanooga 116, Thomas in Chattanooga is in the log tonight. So those are the check-ins. That's the roster we currently have, standing at 34. And so I'm going to go ahead and take a break. And at this time, we're going to ask for check-ins from any repeater anywhere. Please make your check-in slowly. Give me your tactical unit number, your name, your location. Also, your call sign is required. And please do so slowly so that I can get it all entered in. Net control standing by.
RKK629, Chattanooga 84, Jim up in Chattanooga. Yes. WREC 529,
Chattanooga 58, off to look out by the repeater, Handlesville. WRNU 813, Atlanta 931, Scott in Canton.
Okay, I get the feeling there's another one out there that's trying to check in, and we haven't heard that person yet. I've heard a couple of key ups and a quick key and a part of a voice. So one thing to bear in mind with a linked repeater network is it takes a moment for all of the equipment to figure out what it's supposed to do with a key up. So when you key up your radio, the repeater that you're talking to acts pretty quickly. It acts, remarkably fast. And so anybody that's on that same repeater that you're on will hear virtually your entire transmission. But if it's a linked repeater, then when you key up that radio, we have to send messages all over the place to machines all over the state to tell them to, okay, there's a message coming in, begin to listen. Okay, now you're listening. Now relay this message to all of the other repeaters and relay. All that stuff happens, and it takes a little bit of time for all that to come together and begin to work. So when you're on a linked repeater, very often the very first part of your transmission can be cut off. So it's a good habit, it's a good practice to key the mic and then take a breath and then begin speaking. And some will even say that if you're looking at the online repeater map, which I never do, but if you are, you should wait until the repeater changes color. I think that's a little longer than necessary, but it does ensure that the repeater and the links are active and that your entire transmission will be heard. So not really meant to rant at anybody, I just as information, because we do have a lot of new folks here, and with that, folks just don't know. They just don't know how this works, because our repeater network is different. It's different than a lot of ham repeater networks. It's different than most everybody's repeater system anywhere. So it's not automatically understood how to operate and how to behave on it. But this last round of check-ins, that slow pace may sound ridiculous to some of you. It may feel ridiculous speaking at that pace, but it makes my life so much easier. And it does give me the time that I need to complete the form and be able to get the next check-in. That's the challenge that I have is I may recognize your voice and I may know who you are, and I may be able to enter all the information based off of the fact that I remember you from, the last 85 times I've checked you in, but I still need that time to be able to finish your check-in, because what happens is while I'm typing in your location information, the next person is already finished with their check-in and I can't remember what they said. So the short-term memory is gone. Long-term memory is also gone, but I forget about that oftentimes. In any case, these slow-paced check-ins are perfect for this fat old man. So thank you for that. Net Control is going to stand by one more time for any additional check-ins. Then we'll get the show on the road. Off the road. We'll get it off the road.
WRON 379, checking in first time.
This is RM, WRM 879, Atlanta 312. Justin, I think that was me that keyed up. By the time I keyed up, I spelt my T all over the kitchen table.
WROM 379, checking in, Commerce, Georgia. Roger.
WROM 379 in Commerce. I've got your check-in. Can I get your first name?
Roger.
When you said that, I just assumed you were saying Roger, as in, everybody uses that as the general acknowledgement of anything and everything. So, all right, Roger, I've got you in here. Finally, we have a real Roger that we can Roger to. Glad to have you in here tonight. Is that WRON as in November, or is that M as in Mike?
M as in Mike, WROM as in Mike, 379 in Commerce.
Excellent. So for this round of check-ins, I got Atlanta 931 Scott in Canton. Thank you, Scott, for that check-in. And, of course, WROM 379, Roger in Commerce, is in with us tonight. And Stacy, Atlanta 312, hope you got your tea cleaned up. And is Shad going to check in with us tonight?
Yes, he'll be here.
All right. Net Control standing by for additional check-ins.
This is WRAH 210, Atlanta 442, Craig in Ackworth. And maybe Roger should say Roger, Roger. Check me in.
I appreciate that, Craig, but I think Roger should just be Roger, and everybody else should just leave him alone. I mean, he hasn't done anything to us. We should just be nice to him. All right, we've got an excellent start here tonight, and we've got 40 in the roster at this point in time. So let's go ahead and kick things into gear. Anyone who hasn't had the opportunity to check in will have an opportunity as we come to the end of things. We'll ask for check-ins again, and we don't want to leave anyone behind. But let's go ahead and kick things into gear, and we'll get things going. Now, a real quick announcement. Anybody who hasn't seen the Facebook post, I want to make aware that we have made arrangements for a live on-the-air session with Santa. We're going to have an early net on November 16, starting at 7 p.m., and this will be a youth-only net. And we'll ask parents to, just like we did with the last Youth Net, parents that need to or want to help the kids, coach the kids, speak on behalf of the kids, what have you, can check in, and let's get the kids engaged with an opportunity to speak to Santa. Now, Santa told me that the kids can ask him any questions they want, and any comments or remarks that they have with regards to wishes and things of that nature are also welcome. So this would be a great opportunity to start getting your kids thinking about, if you had a chance to talk to Santa, what would you say? And get the kids thinking in those terms. December 16, that's 2 weeks from tonight. We will start the net at 7 p.m. We'll go through all the children, however many there are. And once we're finished with the youth net, we'll close that out, and whatever time that ends up being, at that point we'll begin a regular net. So no early check-ins for that one. It's just going to be the youth net, then we'll go straight into a regular net. So that's the first announcement. I guess that's really the only one I have at this time. So from there, we'll just go ahead and proceed. Tonight's topic is off-road vehicles and things related to that. So I don't really have a particular scope that I wanted to talk about, but I know that there's a lot of interest in this group with off-roading, and both with Jeeps and trucks and Tundras and 4Runners, and I'm sure I'm missing a few things. My truck is not an off-road truck. It is as city truck as they come. I got stuck in my own backyard. Had to pull the truck out with the Jeep. Next, I'm going to have to pull the truck out with Julie's Elantra. So the Elantra is probably more capable off-road than my truck is. But that doesn't mean that people don't have trucks that are kitted and set up to be able to off-road appropriately. Also, there are the side-by-sides and all of those things. Those things look like a lot of fun to me, and they also look like an expensive maintenance nightmare to me. I have enough trouble taking care of the tools and equipment that I already have. So for me to buy a toy like that is a little bit out of my scope. But in any case, I know that's something that a lot of people would and do enjoy. So let's talk about off-road vehicles. Atlanta 810. John, do you have any comments tonight?
Good evening again, Justin, and good evening to the net. Yeah, I have been an off-road enthusiast for quite some time now. I've owned Jeeps for, I guess, about 16 years now. I've had just about every type of convertible Jeep that is out on the market. I think the only one that I skipped was the YJ, the first take at Chrysler's Jeep there with the square headlights. Did not own that one, but I started with a CJ and now own a Gladiator pickup truck, Jeep Gladiator. As far as off-roading, it is a hobby that I have enjoyed for a long time. I've hit many of the trails in the Georgia area, and I have started to branch out into the southern Tennessee, South Carolina, and North Carolina areas. Radio communications are something that's very important in off-road clubs. For many reasons, I ran a CB radio for a long time, and similar to what others have commented on here on this network, CB radio is just not what it used to be. Let me break. And so we moved to FRS, and FRS was great when I was communicating to 2 or 3 other Jeeps, but once our Gladiator Club that a couple of us founded started expanding into 7, 8, 9 Jeeps that were in a line there, the FRS radios just weren't capable enough, and so that brought me into GMRS. And, well, here I am. I have fallen in love with this communication method. This group specifically has become another enjoyment of my life, and I think there's a lot of good things that come out of it.
Very good stuff, John. And yeah, I could just imagine in that scenario the FRS being great for, close proximity stuff. But once you're spread out over a half a mile or more, that half a watt can be real iffy, especially if you have curvature terrain, hills, boulders, obstacles, stuff like that. When you're out on a flat and wide open, FRS probably would serve you well, but the nature of the activity suggests that that's not going to be the case, except every now and then. So yeah, I think GMRS would naturally lend to that off-road activity. Now, let me ask you: is this the Gladiator? Is this a convertible?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's the first pickup truck of its type there. It's a mid-size pickup that has removable top and removable doors, just like the 4-door Wrangler or 2-door Wranglers. So everything comes off of it. The windshield folds down like the old military-style Willis, and it is certainly a convertible.
Very nice. I always enjoyed 947's Jeep, when she would pull the top off or back. And I was always surprised because I would have figured, I had a Monte Carlo Super Sport with T-tops. And when you took the T-tops out, the wind noise was horrible. You could forget about listening to the radio, and there was no chance of having any kind of a conversation when you were at highway speed. If you were just tooling around town, it wasn't that big a deal. But if you were out on the highway with the T-tops out, the wind noise was just incredible. And I expected very much that kind of noise in Julie's Jeep, and was surprised that there was hardly any wind noise with the top off. There was some, but you could carry on a conversation without really having to raise your voice, if any, just very little. And you could hear the radio. You could, it was definitely not the same as with the top on, but nowhere near the noise that I expected. And I imagine that as long as the windshield is up, you probably have the same thing with the Gladiator.
Yeah, the windshield folds down, but I would highly recommend having a full-face helmet if that's going to be the case, unless you're back in the woods and going a couple of miles an hour. Otherwise, you're going to have a smile that has black dots in it.
Yeah. Well, even in the woods, I could imagine certain hazard with tree limbs and things like that. So, if you were out on the flat, out in the plains someplace, where I'm from in Indiana, it's very flat, and you can get into areas where you very little. I mean, we do have trees. We have big green leafy trees in Indiana. But there's lots of areas where the trees are trimmed back, or you have enough room. Even on a lot of the fire trails and stuff, they're way back, so it's not really a concern. You could definitely cruise around with the windshield down without having to worry about getting whipped in the face. But I would think that you would have to be real careful about that, on the trails.
Yeah, as long as you're going a couple of miles an hour and you pay attention and you pick trails that the trees are not super tight, you're okay. But yeah, otherwise, windshield up is a smarter idea. You don't get the safari style, but hey, it's still a lot of fun.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool stuff. All right, well, one of these days, I'll get a first-hand look at that Gladiator, and, might have to jump in it and go for a little ride, but cool stuff. Next on my list is Atlanta 811 Victoria, also in Dawsonville. Victoria is in and out tonight. Thank you for that check-in, which brings me to Atlanta 172, Greg in Bremen. Greg, do you do any off-road riding down there in near Alabama?
Oh yeah, I got a little Jeep. We don't do a whole lot of it anymore, but we still get out in it and have a little fun.
Ah, very nice. Yeah, we had a Jeep, but 947's Jeep was what I think many would consider a mall crawler. It probably had a lot of potential in terms of off-road. It had, nice tires with big old muddy looking lugs on them, and I think it would have held its own in that environment. But the downside to that is the washing and bathing after the fact, because Julie likes a clean vehicle, and her Jeep spent I would imagine there were some weeks that went by that it didn't go to the car wash, but not very many. Not very many. And I bet there are probably more weeks that the Jeep went to the car wash twice than there are weeks where the Jeep didn't go to the car wash at all. So very little off-roading there, but nice to have one. One of these days, I'm sure we'll get another one. Probably the next one we get won't be such a nice Jeep, and then we won't be afraid of getting it off-road and getting it dirty and letting it stay that way. Good stuff, Greg. Hope all is well down there, and you're sounding great on the air tonight. McDonough 32, Lance, do you have any off-road vehicles? McDonough 32. I know that last week you tried to come back to us, and I think you said that your battery had died or something to that effect, and you weren't able to get back in. I just want to give you a chance if you're out there. McDonough 32, Lance, you're up.
This is McDonough 34. I was trying to catch logs earlier, and Lance had checked in and out.
All right, McDonough 34, I appreciate that. So we're going to go ahead and show Lance's in and out tonight and move right along. Next check-in was Atlanta 253, Donald in Blairsville. Donald was in and out tonight, so thank you, Donald, for your check-in, and we'll go ahead and go right back to McDonough 34, who's next in the list. Jared in McDonough. Jared, do you have any off-road vehicles you want to talk about?
I actually do not have any off-road vehicles at this time, but I am considering purchasing a four-door Jeep Willys and possibly building an off-road vehicle on that. I'm just not quite sure when I'm going to get around to actually diving into that project.
Well, and that seems to be the thing with Jeeps. There's a couple of different groups of Jeep owners. There's the folks that buy the Jeep and have it fitted or buy it already fitted and just plug and play. And then there's the project folks that are always working on their Jeep. They buy a Jeep as a project and they get it going, then they have to bring it back in and fix it, and they get it going and have to fix it some more. And Atlanta 4-5, Ian, I think, would fall into the to the project Jeep category. He loves his Jeeps, but I'm not sure how much Jeep driving he gets to do because it's always a project. But yeah, I can understand, and you know, if you don't mind that sort of thing, there's really nothing wrong with it. I enjoy projects, but I like to have them, you know, I like to have something I can work on, and then I can enjoy it. You know, I don't have to work on it, enjoy it, work on it, enjoy it, work on it, and work on it some more. I want to be able to just get it done and then go play with it. So, but I can appreciate there's probably lots of people who have as much joy in the project as they do in the end result. So, good stuff. All right, Jared, I'm going to go ahead and move on to Chattanooga 106, Della in Rossville. Della is in and out tonight. It was great hearing from you, and look forward to chatting with you on the air as we go. Also, we have Chattanooga 105, Matt in Rossville, in and out as well. Thank you, Matt, for your check-in tonight. McDonough 39, Bruce in Stockbridge is in and out tonight, as well as Atlanta 285 and 286, CV and Lynn Smith, both in Murrayville, in and out this evening. Thank you, Lynn and CV, for those check-ins. That brings me next to Atlanta 780, the big off-road Dodge truck that that Houston drives. You want to talk a little bit about off-roading adventures, Houston?
Good evening, Justin. Good evening to the rest of the net. Well, we've had our share of off-roading. We've been through the motorcycles, and I think it was 4 different dune buggies we built, and Ram Chargers, and other 4-wheel drives. And this one is just one that if I get on a muddy road and need 4-wheel drive, that's a different story. I'll use it, but no, we don't go out where the Jeeps do.
Very good. Yeah, and if you can avoid the muddy road, that's even better yet, because you know the getting the mud on the truck means you got to wash the truck, right?
Yes, sir. Of course, we got a pretty good wash place out here that does a real good job on them, but we try to stay out of the mud. I think the only time I've added 4-wheel drive was in, of all places, Arizona, in what they call a road. It's actually a wash that leads to the house out there my sister lives on. and it flooded one day, and we had to go to the store, so we had to put it in four-wheel drive and go out it. But I think that's the most four-wheel driving it's ever had, and probably will ever get.
Well, it's nice to have if you need it. Mine doesn't have that option, so if I can't get traction, out of the rear end of it, then I'm done. And wet grass and a gentle grade is enough to stick me. But yeah, so I guess if that happens, we'll have to bring the. I'm gonna have to get underneath Julie's car and see where I can tie a chain or a strap to it. So if that ever happens, I can have her come around and pull me out. But yeah, my truck isn't very capable once it gets off the pavement. Next on my list is Chattanooga 69, Ronnie from the Lookout Mountain Machine. Ronnie is in and out tonight, but Blue Ridge 180 Mike from Cherry Log is going to hang out with us tonight. Mike, do you have any off-road adventures you'd like to share?
Well, thank you, Justin. I've had a lot of off-road adventures, but one thing I do know about Jeeps, the kind that Jeepsters call Jeeps, they're best at getting you stuck in places that you shouldn't have been in anyway. But a real Jeep has no carpeting. It has giant holes in the floor, so it will not float down the river when you try to cross it in too deep water. They never get a bath. There are no creature comforts associated with them. I learned all of these things the hard way. I have a couple of what I call, this is a long-winded conversation, and my timeout timer is not built for that. Let me take a break. I have a couple of basically Isuzu rodeos that I call my Japanese Jeeps. And the fenders are all bent and banged up. The paint's messed up. I drilled holes in the floorboard myself. But, yeah, there's a lot of adventure in having a Jeep if you want it to be a Jeep. But if you want it to be something to drive around town in, I don't know about that kind. Yeah, I'm severely hampered by a timeout timer that I won't be able to adjust until probably Monday. Yeah, I got lots of Jeep stories. They're great vehicles. They're, in my opinion, not well made. They're mostly made to look pretty driving around town.
Well, yeah, and I don't know what started that craze, but you're right, Mike. There's a lot of pretty Jeeps out there that are being driven around by pretty young things and pretty older things. But that phenomenon with women driving pretty Jeeps and not necessarily off-road Jeeps, don't know where that came from, but it sure is a thing, no doubt. And Julie definitely looks great driving around in a Jeep, but honestly, she looks great driving around in just about anything. One of the most attractive things that I ever saw was her driving around in my Super Sport Monte Carlo. But in any case, yeah, so there's a lot of them that are not really meant to go off-road, I guess. Julie was very concerned about any talk of trail riding or adventures, that she didn't want any scratches, or she was concerned about things like tree limbs or rocks, or things that might come up and dent or scratch or otherwise harm the Jeep and or mess up the rims. And so strictly mall crawler type activities, and that is a fad. I don't know that it's a bad one, but it definitely brings a lot to that market. It elevates the price point, the entry level of Jeeps. I know that when we were looking for Julie's Jeep, we had gone to a dealership looking at brand new ones. I didn't really think I was going to buy new, but I just wanted to see what was out there and what the money was and that sort of thing. And when we were talking with the dealer, I made mention of my employee discount that I get through Norfolk Southern, and the dealer told me that we don't participate in that. We don't have to discount the Jeep. I'm going to sell this Jeep to you or somebody else today or tomorrow. It really doesn't matter to me, but I'm not going to discount it to get it sold. And I was a little bit surprised by that because I thought that that was something that the dealers had to honor, but apparently they don't. So that that point is all to just say that that raises the cost of getting into a Jeep for everybody. So nothing to be done about it. That's just the way it is. So good points, Mike. And yeah, I do like the idea of being able to drill some holes in the floorboard, pull the carpet out, and not worry about getting it wet. So long as it'll still start the next day. You got to make sure the electronics don't get soaked. But and today, so many vehicles have computers in them. I would really worry about that. But an older vehicle could be a great off-roading adventure vehicle, and lots of opportunity to get it stuck in places it should never have been. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 344 Damon in Murrayville. Damon, do you have any off-road adventures you'd like to share?
Well, thank you, Justin. Yeah, I spend a lot of times in four-wheel drives. I started off with a 1978 K10 Chevrolet. It was on a 38. It was mainly used at mud bogging. I didn't really do off-roading with it. Somebody wanted it more than me and stole it from me, so I had to upgrade to a 1980 CJ7 after that, and had it set up for off-road with 33-inch tires, winch, CB radio. Kept it for many, many years, but then I wanted to get that the AC in the vehicle, so I ended up selling that one. Let me break. I ended up selling the CJ7 and graduated to a 97 Jeep TJ that had air conditioning and a better roll cage for the family, and I modified it, upgraded the gearing, bigger tires, and it's also what got me in the GMRS with the trail riding, as said earlier. CB radios just don't cut it in the woods when you're spread out. So the GMRS, I loaded up in that Jeep. It's been a godsend ever since. And the only thing about Jeep is Jeep stands for just empty every pocket. So you're never finished with a Jeep if you've ever owned one.
Yeah, I've heard that said, and I suppose that's probably true when the Jeep goes off-road, as soon as you take it off the street. But, I have to tell you, Julie's Jeep was not, it was expensive because it used a lot of fuel, and the tires were expensive, but all tires are expensive today. I think it costs the same to put those big tires on Julie's Jeep as it costs to put tires on my pickup truck. There wasn't a big difference in price there. I think that one was almost as bad as the other. So, yeah, I think that a lot of that just empty every pocket comes from the off-roading side of things, because I don't think that the cost of ownership of Julie's Jeep was really that bad. We've had other vehicles that have been far more demanding in terms of regular maintenance expenses and stuff. So, but then again, we only had a Jeep for about 3 years, so maybe we just didn't have one long enough to get into all of that. But hers was, and still, right up until she sold it, was in excellent condition. So that may be part of why. But yeah, I think just as soon as you start doing the off-road stuff, that's when your maintenance issues are going to be increased because of mud and water and, angles and just putting everything through the stresses that it may or may not be designed to take. So that reminds me of a story. I have an uncle that's passed away when I was a kid, but he was an engineer at International Harvester back when the Scout was made in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Let me break. So my Uncle Jay was an engineer, and part of his task was in the suspension for the International Scout. And so he was driving one. He had purchased one for his own use and was driving it. And he had an issue with the lower A-frame, and ended up taking it in and getting that repaired, and looking at the parts that came out of the vehicle from that repair, and he discovered that the parts that were being used in production were not the grade of parts that he had specified on the engineering plans. And so the story is that he went out onto the production floor and found bins full of these parts that were not the correct parts, and he was very upset about that. But apparently it all came down to pennies versus nickels, and they had just decided that the expense of having the grade of bolt that he had specified wasn't something they were willing to do. So the suspensions would wear out faster as a result. And these are just the realities of large-scale manufacturing. And of course, Scout didn't last long, and that's probably part of the reason why. But that's something I recall from my youth as a kid, hearing my uncle and my dad talk about those things. So good stuff, Damon, and appreciate bringing the young one on for the check-in. That was great. Next on my list, I have, where is my list? I have lost my place completely. Let me see if I can figure it out. It looks like it's Atlanta 287 Trey in Murrayville. Trey, do you have any off-road adventures you'd like to share?
Justin, I've got quite a bit of off-road adventures I'd like to share, but on account of Atlanta 285, but we'll get in that on another detail. But at this point in time, no, I do not have any off-road vehicles other than a four-wheeler. But yeah, my pickup truck does pretty good in four-wheel drive through the cow pastures and everything else.
Well, and I have to tell you, that's the bulk of my experience too. As a kid on a farm in Indiana, all the vehicles, all the pickup trucks were four-wheel drive, and that's typically where you would use them, is when you're out in the fields. For one reason or another, you would come across a muddy spot, or sometimes we knew where the muddy spots were and we'd go across them on purpose. But that's when the four-wheel drive would come into play, and that's where the mud usually came from, and that's where the butt chewing came in after the fact, because we're out there screwing around in the mud instead of getting our work done. And but that's where the bulk of my off-road experience comes from. So copy all that, Trey, and look forward to hearing the rest of the story sometime when we can get together. Next on my list is Atlanta 288, Jackson in Murrayville. Jackson is in and out tonight. Thank you for that check-in, Jackson. That brings me to Atlanta 32. Chris is all the way up in Illinois tonight, checking in on Zello. It's great to hear from you, Chris. Hope all is well, and love to see the adventures of your travels on Facebook. So keep that up. Next, we have Atlanta 434, Ronnie in North Forsyth. Ronnie, do you have any off-road adventures you'd like to share?
Hey, Justin, can I jump in for just a second? One of the predominant adventures was a little bit of training with a group I keep together with. We're doing a little bit of tactical training, if you will. Some scouting, some basic, checking out the other campsite, if you will. While we were out there, I had taken my Jeep, and it's the same Jeep I still have today, which I do a lot of off-roading with. Took that out there, and when we were all done, everybody was hiking back to the main camp, and this is back to the story of why everybody calls me Groundhog. Took my Jeep back down the main trail, and the main trail had a big old tree in the way. So I put it in 4 low and climbed over that tree like it was standing still, and it was 2 inches off the ground when it was in fact 3 feet off the ground. I climbed over that thing, and ever since then everybody's called me Groundhog. But other than that, I do a lot of off-roading up at Iron Mountain Park. Hoping to see some of the other people here that own Jeeps and get out there and have a little bit of fun, do a lot of camping, and actually, you know, get out there and play with the Jeep. I bought it to play with it, and that's what I do as much as possible.
Very good stuff, Ronnie. And yeah, adventures off road. That's the theme for the evening, and that definitely sounds like an adventure, especially when you earn a nickname that sticks with you for a long time. That's cool stuff. Great story. Thank you for sharing that. Station with a comment. Who is that? And go ahead.
Hey, this is Atlanta 854WRJ412. Hey, I was just trying to jump in there, Justin. I had just got off work, and I was wanting to check in and out. Didn't mean to walk on anybody or interrupt anybody. I'll be listening on my drive home, but I just wanted to check in and out. Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you.
All right, Atlanta 854. Give me a name and a general location, please.
Name's Josh. I'm in Alto, Georgia.
All right, stupid caps lock has got me again. Josh in Alto, I appreciate that. I've got you in the log, and I've got you in here as in and out. So yeah, stick around and stay tuned in on your drive home, and enjoy the stories as we continue on with off-road adventures. Ronnie, I thank you for your comments and your adventure. I'm going to move on next to Chattanooga 67 Ed in Lookout Valley. Ed, do you have any off-road adventures you'd like to share?
Roger. Yeah, let me start off by saying Jeep is probably the cheapest convertible a person can own. I have a Mustang GT50 convertible, and I can tell you, dollar for dollar, I compared the Jeep to the Mustang. Holy moly, what a difference. So, you take a few minutes, you take that top off by yourself, you tuck it away, and you get the cheapest convertible ever. Let me rekey. So, folks look at me when I mentioned that the most famous or favorite vacation I've ever had is going to Death Valley. And let me say, God has blessed the wife and I. We've been across the world. It's the goal to the... anyway, you name it. And the most favorite one is going to Death Valley. And we towed the Jeep out there behind the motorhome, parked in a town called Pahrump. About as far west in Nevada you can get, and then you cross over and you're in Death Valley. And so we spent a week out in Death Valley, going back to the campsite, and followed these national GPS, or not GPS, anyway, genetic survey maps, and had GPS at the time, but it was a brick. It was huge compared to what they are now. Had radio, cell is, at least at that time, non-existent, and we thought we were pretty well set with water and gasoline and yada, yada, yada. Anyway, you follow these trails, and that's all they are, that mule teams followed, and there was enough room for the Jeep to go up and down, and the wife would look out her side of the Jeep, and yeah, I was right on the edge, and I'd look at my side right on the edge. But anyway, you follow this, and you end up at koi ponds, and waterfalls, and palm trees. I mean, it's surreal. You are in Death Valley, But you come into this tropical oasis and different places that, well, there's no way in the world you would hit it with a normal vehicle. You got to have that four-wheel drive. Yeah, it's even scarier going down the grade than it is going up, because you don't know if you're going to slip and slide. But yeah, quite the adventure. If you ever have it, go out there in April when everything is a little bit damp and blossoming, and oh, it's worth the trip. Back to that.
Ah, fantastic adventure story. That is great. Death Valley. You know, when you mention Pahrump, Nevada, it brings to mind the world's greatest radio broadcaster, Art Bell, his facility out there in Pahrump, Nevada. So I don't know if you've ever visited that. That would be an ambition of mine, a reason for me to go see the antenna farm. And of course, I don't know if it's even still there. He's passed away some time ago, so who knows what's there now. But I would have loved an opportunity to meet with and visit and see the sites around Art Bell's property there in Pahrump, Nevada. And yeah, I suppose that's probably the best advice that I've heard, is to go in April when things are still moist and blossoming, because I would imagine going in August might not be the same experience. But in any case, great story. Appreciate you sharing that adventure. So let me see. I think I lost my place again. Looks like next on my list. You guys really should hire a better net controller. Next on my list is Chattanooga 67 Ed in Lookout Valley. Or is that who I was just talking to? I've lost my place and I've lost my train of thought. I can't recall if I'm speaking with Ronnie or with Ed. Chattanooga 67 Ed, do you have any off-road adventures you'd like to share? No, all right. I'm going to go ahead and show Ed as in and out. That may have been the case. I do miss that sometimes when folks are checking in. I don't know why. I just do. So that'll bring me next to Atlanta 270, Scott incoming. Scott was in and out, according to my log. So thank you, Scott, for your check-in tonight. And that'll bring me next to Atlanta 721, David in southwest Paulding County. David, do you have any off-road adventures you'd like to talk about? Hey, is this thing on?
Good evening, Justin.
There it is.
I think someone was doubling with you. I'm not sure if that might have been Ed trying to come back with a comment.
All right, let's try Ed again. Chattanooga 67, do you have any off-road adventures you'd like to share?
Just the Death Valley one. I might have misunderstood you. I thought you called me back on the list again.
No, that was my bad. I lost my place in the log, and I couldn't remember having spoken with you or if it was with Ronnie with the Death Valley adventure. Sometimes I'm so busy talking I'm not listening. So I think that's what happened there. But thank you, Ed. I appreciate your comments. And Ed, I don't remember speaking with you. Is this your first check-in?
I've been on a handful of times, but life gets in the way of being on during the nighttime, I heard.
No, I can appreciate that. Life does get in the way sometimes of a lot of things that we enjoy doing, but it's great having you on. I'm glad you were able to make it tonight, and definitely look forward to hearing from you on the net again sometime very soon. So let's go ahead and move on, and we've already asked for Scott. He was in and out, Atlanta 270, and that brings us to David, Atlanta 721. Thanks for letting me know about that double, David.
No problem, Justin. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I've spent a good bit of time in the woods. I had a 79 CJ7 back in the early 90s that I put a 4-inch lift kit on. I spent every weekend roaming all of the back roads in Paulding County, whether it be the top of the world, triple hole, the Silver Comet Trail before it was a walking trail. It was an abandoned railroad track that was gravel bed. You could drive through there, pull the plugs out of the floorboard, and drive through 3 feet of water and have a good old time. I spent, so many miles just putting at 3 miles an hour through the woods in Paulding County. Let me break. Going from the Jeep to, and word of advice, do not drop the windshield on the Jeep. There's a good chance that seal will not seal back up, and it will leak down into your dash, and it is a nightmare. Not sure on the newer models, but I know that the older ones, once you break that seal, you'll have rainwater coming in on your foot, right above the gas pedal. It's not pleasant. I had to ride around with a right rubber boot so I could put it on and keep my foot dry. Jeeps are fun. Just you get tired of riding around wearing a poncho because of the rain. I had an 87 Chevy with 6-inch lift with 35-inch tires. I love it. I've now got a Toyota Tacoma, that smaller truck, but I think it's just as expensive as Jeeps are.
Well, I think there again, once you take the vehicle off road, I think you change the maintenance dynamic considerably, and I think that's where the expense comes in. You have an added expense when you fit the truck to be able to go off road. For instance, my truck sits low. The first thing you'd have to do is put a lift kit on it. It's not 4-wheel drive, but even if it were, it sits so low that it's really, for more than just maneuvering through a field. And I recall a lot of our farm trucks and a lot of our pickup trucks sat very low, and about the only thing that we ever did was we would buy different rims and tires for them to get them up a little bit higher, but we never put lift kits on them. And part of the reason for that was, back in those days, the talk was as soon as you put a lift kit on a truck, you start going through U-joints. And so we never put lift kits on the trucks, and we really didn't get them stuck that often, so it was just not a real issue. But yeah, that's what I think is the difference maker. Is the expense comes in as soon as you take it off road.
Oh, absolutely. In my Jeep, I had a 20 millimeter ammo can behind the seat because it was a CJ7. It had an extra room there. I had extra bearings, extra brake pads, extra breathers, duct tape, baling wire to do the repairs in the middle of the night. That's every time you go mudding, you have to come home, pull the bearings, re-lube the transfer case. It's a nightmare. But the beauty with the Jeep is I just stood on the roll bars and hosed it out, ready to go the next day. Jeeps are fun. They're expensive, especially if you bury them up to the headlights, but it gets fun. I like my Toyota now. I do trail riding. I don't do mudding. It's a less expensive and more enjoyable now.
Yeah. And I can appreciate the value in folks going trail riding, and a nice easy or even a moderate trail. It's something that I kind of always wanted to do with Julie, but we just never really got around to it with her Jeep. But that's something that would be more along my speed, and probably not too terrible in terms of maintenance and repair and additional cost on a vehicle, because as long as you stay off the tough trails, it's not all that different from the road, except instead of pavement you've got grass and dirt and a little bit of gravel and woods. And that would be the fun part for me, is to be able to tool easy along these trails and look out into the woods and look for the wildlife and that sort of thing. So that seems like a very good way to enjoy an afternoon to me. But good stuff, David. Appreciate your comments. And hey, I'm looking forward to seeing you on Saturday. So we'll catch up with you there. Next on my list is Chattanooga 55 Doug in Chattanooga is in and out with us tonight, as well as Atlanta 360 Chris in Atlanta, also in and out. And Atlanta 417 William in Auburn is in and out. But that brings me next to Atlanta 737 Charles in Gainesville. Charles may or may not be in and out, so let's see if he's hanging out with us. Charles, do you have any off-road adventures you'd like to share? Okay, no response from Charles, so I'm going to go ahead and show him in and out in the log. And that'll bring me next to Atlanta 402 Todd. Incoming Todd is in and out tonight, as well as Atlanta 948 Gary right here in Woodstock is also in and out tonight. And I think that Atlanta 42 Andre in Winder was in and out. But let's call out to him and see if Andre's there. Andre, do you have any off-road adventures you'd like to share? No, all right, we're going to say thank you to Andre for checking in with us this evening. I'm going to go ahead and show him his in and out and move on to Atlanta 299, Steve in Roswell. Steve, do you have any off-road adventures you'd like to talk about?
Well, hello, Justin, and everybody else on the net. Years ago, I bought a brand new 1973 Jeep CJ5, and it was outfitted to do hill climbs and cross-country races, and I did a lot of that during that time, and just tore the thing all to pieces. I had to put an entirely new body on it from the damage, and had to have the frame boxed in. And after years of that kind of damage, I finally just sold it and got out of it. But after years of going without a vehicle like that, and I bought a 1987 Bronco back in 1987, and I still have it. And it's been upgraded over the time with positive traction, and just put an overdrive transmission in it, and different things. I wouldn't say that it's an extreme off-road vehicle. Break there, but it does good for getting as far as you can up a mountain to do a summit activation or something like that for summits on the air that Sam's do from time to time. But I've really enjoyed my Jeep. I had the CB radios in it, and the Bronco I have a 2-meter and HF rig with a screwdriver antenna so that I can get out, but it's so big that I have to take it off when I'm really off-road and screw it back on when I need to use it. But I like having a vehicle that I can pull anything with and get out on the roads when it's snowy or icy and do things like that with. But yeah, I really enjoy my off-road vehicles, even though I don't use them that much anymore.
Yes, very good stuff. And I tell you, the trail that goes up to, the Pine Log Repeater that we no longer have active, but I've been up there several times with Atlanta 60. And the road going up to the repeater is pretty good now, but he speaks of a time when there were big washouts and places where the road was, just really tore up. And I could see, based on some of the what's the word I'm looking for, when the water runs through and cuts a little channel, some of that wear and some of that erosion, that's the word. Some of the erosion that had occurred and was still occurring, along that roadway and even across that roadway, I could see where, left unchecked, that would become a really treacherous road in fairly short order. And be a fun road to, it's a 20-minute ride from when you get to the gate to getting to the repeater site, because even though it's a pretty well maintained road now, it's still not a road that you're going to zip along at 40 mile an hour. it's a walking speed road, and especially if you're in any sizable vehicle at all. So still, it's fun. But you've got switchbacks on the mountainside, and you've got the woods on one side, and a steep grade on the other going down, and it's a fun ride to take. It doesn't seem like it's 20 minutes unless you've done it a couple of times in the course of a weekend or 2 weeks. Then the ride gets long. But if you're only going up there once every 6 months or so, it's a very pleasant ride. But yeah, that's about the size of the scope of my mountaintop adventures. Most of the stuff that I drive to is a well-paved, well-traveled roadway, and that's just fine with me. So we'll keep it that way. But that's good stuff, Steve. Do you have any announcements you'd like to make? Activities with your radio club coming up?
Well, just the normal thing. We have the testing for the ham exams on the second Saturday of the month at Slopes Barbecue. Every month, actually, if somebody wants to get their exam, you can go to the North Fulton website, nfarl.org, and the registration for that particular session opened today, or yesterday, as a matter of fact, and will be open, I think, until the 8th. And we've had quite a few good ones, good sessions lately with quite a few people coming in, and